Update 5.3 is packed with a bunch of new features, so we have a lot to talk about in the coming days. First up is the brand new weapons and refines for this update cycle, and even this has some surprises for us. We'll be talking about the new upgrades for La Rochelle, Lyon, Ishtar, and Ayra. Additionally, this is the first implementation of refines for seasonal units, and we're starting with Halloween Nowi. Why did we end up skipping the Year 1, Easter, Bridal, Summer, etc. banners? Well, it seems like they're only doing refines for seasonals with unique weapons, and Halloween Nowi is the first to have one. They also hinted that Valentine's Hector is going to be back on his summoning banners soon, so it seems like he might be next in line for refine since he also has a unique weapon. That's just something to keep in mind if you have a favorite seasonal unit with a unique weapon. Now let's get started. First up is La Rochelle. She's a blue mage cavalier and largely overshadowed by Reinhardt as a 3 to 4 star option. She already had Ivaldi, but its base effect did get updated. It still grants plus 3 defense, but also if the foe is above 75% HP, it grants plus 3 attack, speed, and res on top as well. Basically plus 3 to all stats, not exactly amazing, and they couldn't even bump up the plus 3 defense. For the special upgrade, at the start of combat, if the foe has more than 75% HP, inflict minus 5 attack and res on the foe and restores 7 HP after combat. Alrighty, so Ivaldi is a bit of a weird weapon. La Rochelle has okay attack, speed, and res, but awful base HP and defense. The plus 3 defense wasn't really saving her before, but an extra minus 5 attack debuff on top may help. La Rochelle will still need to fight a nearly full HP enemy, but she'll get a bit more damage and take a bit less in return. She also has some healing if she survives. Now, the main reason La Rochelle and pretty much every blue mage cavalier gets overshadowed by Reinhardt is that he just simply does more damage with an easier playstyle. Reinhardt just builds full attack and tries to 2-tap enemies with Dire Thunder's brave attacks. Meanwhile, La Rochelle also has to invest in speed if she wants to double, and 31 base speed with an extra plus 3 isn't the highest starting point. Ivaldi and its refine does offer some extra damage, but La Rochelle will still need to take a hit, so that's what the bonus attack debuff tries to help with. Still, her physical bulk is atrocious, so unless you have max merges and more, I would not try to take multiple hits. Ivaldi does open up some mixed phase builds which can differentiate La Rochelle from Mr. Magic is Everything, but there is no way Reinhardt's going to get dethroned if you want an offensive blue mage cavalier. In terms of builds, La Rochelle can still go for the standard offensive route. Fury plus Desperation plus Brazen attack and speed offers a lot of stats, and it's easy to put together. It also allows La Rochelle to bypass the enemy's counterattack in hopes her follow-up attack finishes them off first. Because Ivaldi now heals 7 HP after a fight, it does slowly clash with Fury 3/6 recoil damage. That can mess up Desperation, but if you have Fury 4, then no problems. With Fury and Ivaldi's attack debuff and bonus stats, it does make La Rochelle a bit tougher to one-shot, which is always good. Main concern for this build is definitely speed, so a speed boom with some buffs would still be appreciated. Next, if you do want to take the mixed phase approach, there are some skills to consider. Push force skills are nice, and Ivaldi's cancels out their recoil damage. Low attack in either speed or res would be great to stack with Ivaldi. Then you can also stack attack smoke debuffs to further try to keep La Rochelle alive. Other skill lines that work on both phases include the solo skills, great on Cavaliers. Then you got the new catch skill line, which Legendary Claude just introduced. Unity, Bond, or Forms can also work, but may limit the long range movement of your Cavalier. If you do want La Rochelle to fight often, you could stack more resistance since her res is decent already. She could also use Mystic Boost skill for extra healing, and she can also stay safer from dragons. Overall, this is an okay refine. It's definitely trying to cater towards builds that tank a bit more damage, which may not be for everyone. I would say if you do go down that route, plus 10 merges should be a given since ranged cavaliers need all the extra stats they can get. Next is Lyon, a red infantry mage and a grand hero battle unit. Lyon already had Naglfar, which sadly did not get any buffs at all. It's still just a 14 might Raven Tome. With the refine, there is a mistranslation currently, which makes it less impressive than it first seems. At the start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than 50%, inflict minus 4 attack and res on the foe. If unit's HP is greater than 70% and foe initiates combat, unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. See, originally the part "and foe initiates combat" is not present, at least in English. That would imply that above 70% Lyon gets a follow-up on both phases, which is really good. Sadly, this is not the case. The refine just grants a follow-up on the enemy phase, which is Quick Repulse 3. The icon of the refine also matches Quick Repulse, so no going back on that one. From his stats, Lyon is real slow, so a player phase follow-up would have been awesome. Now he's going to be kept to his enemy phase playstyle, which is fine, but nothing super fancy to work with. Lyon has okay HP, defense, and res, so the attack debuff improves his bulk, and having Quick Repulse on his weapon removes it from the B slot or Sacred Seal slot. In terms of builds, Lyon can basically run whatever he was using before if you keep Naglfar. It's a Raven Tome, so if it has triangle advantage over colorless units, with no quick riposte in the build, Lyon can replace that with something else, and low attack and res is a pretty good choice. It would stack with the Refine for -7 attack and res at all times, and you neutralize enemy field buffs. While Lyon will primarily bait enemies to him first, if you use skills like attack and defense unity and joint drive attack, he can also get some player phase options. He won't be doubling anybody, but he may be able to one-shot a squishy or already hurt target. For additional skills, you have a lot of defensive options. The old Triangle Adept Raven Tome build is fine for a budget setup, but you can also just slot in some more powerful enemy phase skills like Mirror Stance 3 or Distant Defense 4. If you go for high merges and Dragon Flowers, Close Counter isn't a bad choice, maybe even Close Foil. To stop Dazzling Staff Healers and her Fire Sweep Bow/Sweep skills, you're going to need No-C Disrupt. Otherwise, some healing from Mystic Boost would be pretty good to upkeep Quick Riposte range. Attack Smoke would be a good filler C skill for the debuffs, and if you don't expect Lyon to fight often, but want extra team support, he could run a Rally plus Ruse combo or go for a Link B skill buff. Naglfar's Refine is not insane, but freeing Quick Riposte from taking up a skill slot is good for build options. Fallen Lyon may be a ranged unit menace, but regular Lyon does get some tools to fight in melee range if you want to give that a go. Third, we have Halloween Nowi, a red flying mage. Her original Grimoire tome has undergone some big changes. First off, the HP condition is gone. Nowi can move to any space within 2 spaces of an ally within 2 spaces. If unit is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants plus for attack and speed during combat. Okay, so first part is super important to understand because Nowi doesn't just warp next to allies within 2 spaces, but she can move to any space within 2 spaces of those allies. This is a new ability, and it gives Nowi some ridiculous movement options. Additionally, the refined effect just inflicts -4 attack, speed, and res on any foes within 3 spaces during combat. This is the same refine as Archer Hineka, but we swap out the defense debuffs for res debuffs instead. With how much mobility Halloween Nowi has and how big a 3-space debuff is, she can easily apply these for any teammate. Nowi also benefits from them, so she basically gets +8 attack and speed while also reducing the enemy's attack a bit. She isn't the most offensive flying mage ever, but +8 to both stats is really appreciated. Now back to the mobility aspect of Grimoire, this provides ridiculous possibilities. Say Nowi has an ally 2 spaces ahead of her, she can warp 2 spaces past them to make a move, which is like having 4 movement. If there is a wall next to an ally, she could warp over the wall potentially. This is a crazy movement buff, so if you do see Halloween Nowi, you do need to keep an eye out for possible movements and attacks. This is definitely a refine that benefits from creative maneuvers. With the 2-space range, Nowi can run Unity and Form A skills at full power. You can even include solo skills on top if you want. Just like Archer Hineka, it's also just too good to pass up on a range C skill. The debuffs are going to stack with the refine. Nowi would love extra damage or survivability, and she can even help an ally if they're in the right position. Speaking of which, I know they are super rare, but with this insane mobility, Nowi would be fun with these Snag B skills. These emit debuffs on the closest foes when you use a movement assist skill, so Nowi could use drawback or reposition, and that could be pretty fun. I can't imagine what the AI could cook up with this ability. Now, since Nowi has incredible initiation range, you may want to keep her alive. She's not tanky, but with the attack debuffs from the Refine, an attack range C skill, and sturdy or mirror impact, that could be enough to keep Nowi going. For a defense team, this might allow Nowi to set up a super long range Wings of Mercy chain, so Fury is another possibility. To also assist with team mobility, Nowi herself can run Guidance or Flyer Guidance. She could hopscotch over an ally, then that ally could warp next to her. Since these are Sacred Seals, we can also keep those range skills if needed. All in all, this is one wacky refine for our first ever seasonal one. Halloween Nowi may not be the most destructive mage in the world, but she's gonna be tricky to keep track of if her team is in front of her. Fourth, we have Ishtar, who is a blue infantry mage. Ishtar has the Mjolnir tome, which did get a slight buff. It activates specials, and if Ishtar initiates combat or is not adjacent to an ally, she gets +6 speed during combat. Kind of a weird change, to be honest. Ishtar is definitely not a super enemy phase mage, so the solo condition seems a bit random, but it's there if you want to take advantage of it. For the special upgrade, if Ishtar initiates or is not adjacent to an ally, she gets +5 attack and speed during combat and neutralizes effects that prevents units follow-up attacks. Same condition as the base effect, but Ishtar gets bonus attack and speed and the offensive portion of no follow-up 3. Basically, her follow-ups cannot be stopped by skills. The enemy must outspeed her to not get doubled. We've had a couple no follow-up mages, and it's a great effect to have on an initiator. Ishtar will still very much be a player phase unit, and she gets even faster, plus won't be stopped by skills. This is a really simple addition to the weapon, but even just half a no follow-up is so valuable to have these days. In terms of builds, Desperation plus no follow-up is a deadly combo. Ishtar's Desperation, 2 taps will not be stopped unless the enemy is super fast, and she has these skills by default anyway. She also comes with Swift Sparrow, but Fury or Attack and Speed solo are fine to use if you want the recoil damage or the stats for both phases. Flashing Blade would also be a great Sacred Seal or an A skill since Mjolnir accelerates specials. This could help Ishtar proc Luna on her second hit and works while Desperation is active. Running Brazen Attack and Speed with just Moonbow may be better though unless you go for a Flashing Blade 4. For another build, Ishtar can join the Wind/Water Sweep crew. The Refine will negate the follow penalty of those skills, so Ishtar can double while staying safe from counterattacks, assuming you fight the correct damage type. But how squishy Ishtar can be, being able to avoid the enemy flat out would be amazing, and this build would be insanely powerful with Time's Pulse. Time's Pulse plus Faster Specials would put Luna on a 1 cooldown each player phase. That means on her second hit, Ishtar can proc Luna without Flashing Blade and not needing to get hit at all. Very nasty combo, and she can just build full glass cannon. For some other skills, you got Special Spiral, which can replace Time's Pulse or Flashing Blade, but you lose the safety Desperation or Wind Sweep. Same goes for Low Speed and Res, which would maximize damage output, but you're gonna take a hit from the enemy that can fight back. While not really needed, you can go for Life and Death with the Sacred Seal version, also available. It would just be easier to get Ishtar Swift Sparrow 3 since she has the tier 2 version, and we have Attack and Speed solo or Swift Sparrow as seals as well. Mjolnir can work on the enemy phase, but I just don't really see the point of focusing on it. You could go for double solo skills with some defense and res, but you're going to need a lot of investment to survive more than a hit or two. Not really sure why they added that condition, but you can build around it if you want to. Overall, another simple refine. Faster specials plus no follow-up is great for a speed-focused mage. Last but not least is Ayra, and boy did she get something spicy. The catalyst for the Reinhardt's redemption story is back, and Ayra is not messing around. Her unique sword, which got tossed to the side for a basic slaying edge, got a huge overhaul. Ayra's blade now accelerates specials, grants +3 attack and speed, and during combat neutralizes effects that grant special cooldown charge +X to the foe, or effects that inflict special cooldown charge -X on unit. Good god, they tossed out the entire Flashing Blade effect, but it replaced it with faster specials +3 attack and the Creator's Sword special charge neutralization/prevention ability. I'm not sure if we have enough proper name for that effect because it's only on Bot's Creator's Sword, but now Ayra has access to it as well. Essentially, any skills that increase special charging like Heavy Blade, Flashing Blade, Special Fighter, Bold Fighter, Brave Lucina's Refine, etc. is not gonna work. This is not the guard ability, but enemies won't increase the special charge, which generally is super important for any builds that use it. For the second part, Ayra will neutralize guard effects against her. Nothing can slow her specials from charging. Before even getting to Refine, this new base effect is the main draw. Faster specials is so potent because Ayra has Regno Astra, which will now be on a 1 cooldown. You cannot slow her special charging, so Ayra will always proc Regno Astra if she doubles. As for the actual Refined ability, at the start of combat, if the foe's HP is greater than 75%, grants +4 to all stats and reduces damage from the foe's first attack by 20%. Purely more icing on the already sweet as hell cake. More stats to combat power creep and damage reduction on 1 hit. Ayra already had some of the best stats for what we know it today as the generic infantry swordmaster archetype. Good attack, high speed, low 30 defense, and low 20 resistance. The flat +3 attack and speed pretty much puts her up there with today's swordmaster type units, and then she gets +4 to everything just for fighting a near full health enemy. With the new base effect, Ayra is good to go. So many times infantry sword unit refines don't exactly surpass what newer units can do, but I would say this is not one of those times. The new upgrades for Ayra's blade are amazing, but there is another reason that Ayra is gonna stand out to her peers. For everyone that's played since her release, they know the answer already. Regno Astra was and is still busted. The special is so strong and completely put Ayra in her own category back then. If you're not familiar, Regno Astra is a 2 cooldown special that grants bonus damage equal to 40% of Ayra's speed stat. With just Ayra's base stats and her sword's refined, she now hits 44 speed with no other skills. That's 17 damage on a 2 cooldown special, and this number should easily go up with merges and a full build. Back then, Regno Astra was what made Ayra so deadly. It was so good, a lot of people just used a slaying edge for the 1 cooldown, and now Ayra's blade has adopted that effect from the get-go. 1 cooldown Regno Astra is just dumb because if you hit Ayra, she counters with it, and now you cannot prevent her from charging it up because of the new base effect. Additionally, Time's Pulse is the go-to skill for Ayra because it pre-charges Regno Astra on turn 1. If she initiates, that allows you to proc 2 Regno Astras if the enemy counters back. That is a ton of damage, and it's unbelievably strong for 1v1ing. Back then we had to use Quicken Pulse for this build, but that only works for one turn. Today, Times Pulse is just too good to pass up. For the A skill, a lot of players would run Distant Counter to fight ranged foes, and the Sacred Soul slot now has so many good options. Tech and Speed Solo is amazing, and you can always run it with the A skill as well. With this new refine, Ayra has 2 top tier B skills. No Follow Up just turns Ayra into Violet since you reunite all the effects on the Creator's Sword. No Follow Up plus the anti-guard / anti-special charging effect basically screws over every armor fighter B skill. You also cannot stop Ayra's doubles without outspeeding her, and Ayra is just stacking speed for more Astra damage anyway. The other B skill is definitely Spurn 3. Before Wrath 3 was the go-to for 10 extra damage on Astra procs, Spurn can offer a smaller plus 5 damage per proc, but also you get the 40% damage reduction for outspeeding foes. It stacks with the 20% damage reduction from the Refine for I believe 52% damage reduction on hit 1, and then 40% on hit 2. If you run Spurn with the Times Pulse setup and proc Astra twice, then that's 10 extra damage right there. Filthy stuff from either choice. I think no follow-up is better because it completely shuts down any attackers with built-in follow-up attacks who could take down Ayra first. You also cannot prevent her follow-up without being faster, which means the double Astra is gonna land if she initiates. Spurn would be fine if you ran something like Distant Counter plus Aether for longer battles though. If you are worried about speed creep, then for pure melee combat, getting rid of Distant Counter is fine. Tech and Speed Solo or Kestrel Stance 3 would be fun. Heck, you could run the Red Dual Infantry 4 skill if you're really committed to arena scoring. In conclusion, Ayra is back. She has a lot of competition now, including Larce and Shannon, but this new refine puts her up there as a top tier 1v1 duelist. Astra's killing power is just too good. That's going to be it for this batch of refines. I've been having too much fun plus sending my Secret Stones units, so I may continue with Lara and Lyon. We'll see what kind of skills I got lying around. Moving forward, it will be interesting to see the seasonal unit refines. I feel like it would just be too weird to give Valentine's Hector refined while regular Hector still hasn't gotten one. I'm gonna guess that the seasonals without unique weapons already are probably not gonna get new ones. I think that's fine for the most part, but maybe they're planning to make seasonal units more accessible in general if they're giving refines to them. Would give an incentive to summon on the old ones at least. Let me know what you think about any of these refines in the comments and share your builds with everyone else. We have a lot to cover in the coming days, so I'll see you guys soon.